Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our viewers from Fiji to Turkey in the Asia Pacific region and beyond. My name is Jose, and I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today for this productivity talk organized by the Asian Productivity Organization. Today's Talk topic is productivity improvement through new technologies. We all know that previous industrial revolutions were characterized by the introduction of steam-powered mechanical production at first, followed by mass production on assembly lines, and then by computerization and the production of advanced digital technologies. Now that we are in the fourth industrial revolution, great progress being made in the Internet of Things, or IoT, robotics, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence, or AI, to name just a few. Adapting business operations to reflect industrial progress will be a key driving force for future growth, especially in terms of productivity improvement and sustainability. However, the same advances have posed challenges to businesses, economies, and workforce in terms of the speed of adoption when productivity improvement originates in the digital technology world. Today, we have an opportunity to explore the topic of the adoption of new technologies to improve productivity at the level of private enterprise or companies, public sector organizations, and other type of organizations as they evolve along with the progress of digitalization. Joining us in this talk is Dr. Kanagi Kanapathy, who is an associate professor of the Faculty of Business and Accountancy, University of Malaya. Dr. Kanagi holds a doctorate in business administration from the University of South Australia. She is a versatile educator and researcher, given her 20 years of experience in higher education and managerial positions in multinational companies for 10 years prior to joining the academy. A warm welcome to you, Dr. Kanagi. Would you
Hi,
like to say hello to our viewers, ma'am?
hi, Dr. Jose. Thank you. And I wish to welcome all the viewers to our P Talk today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanagi. And viewers are encouraged to send questions or comments in the chat box for the Q&A session later. And Dr. Kanagi will try to answer those questions. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Kanagi to give her presentation.
Very good afternoon to all our viewers today. And I'm actually quite excited to go through with you on the topic of productivity improvement through new technologies. Now, Dr. Jose just now had introduced Industry 4.0 to us, and most of us are already aware of it. Industry 4.0 focuses on utilizing integrated and smart technologies to create new products and services in order to generate additional value, be it services or products. Now, digital transformation is actually driven by new technologies such as AI or artificial intelligence and hyperautomation. And these are seen as catalysts to accelerate the productivity improvement across various industries. Today, we will focus on four new technologies and their potential impact on productivity. They are robotics, Internet of Things, big data analytics, and of course, artificial intelligence. Let's start with robotics first. There are two types of robots, industrial robots and service robots. Industrial robots are robot systems used for manufacturing mainly, and industrial robots are automated, programmable, and capable of movement on three or four more axes. The elimination of labor-intensive activities is actually driving the industrial robotics market because the more manual work there is, right, we are trying to automate the manual work by using robots. And Industry 4.0 has powered the development of new technologies like collaborative robots, AI-enabled robots, and also has enabled industries to use robots to streamline many processes, as well as increase efficiency and eliminate errors. All this would eventually contribute to improving productivity and, of course, enhancing our economy. In terms of the annual installations of industrial robots, the World Robotics Report shows that there are 517,000 units in 2021 being installed. Industrial robots installation has actually improved by 31% compared to 2020, and this is the highest number in history. The compound annual growth rate from 2016 to 2021 is 11%. And with increased demand across economies, product manufacturers are adopting robots to automate some of the repetitive processes. As I mentioned earlier, these could be manually done earlier. And it looks like China has increased its lead in annual installations in 2021. Uh, and the next to China is Japan and United States. According to the International Federation of Robotics, or IFR, Japan is the world's largest producer of industrial robots, delivering 45% of the global supply. In manufacturing, robots can actually work around the clock. That means they work 24 hours without the need for breaks or any rest, which doesn't happen in the case of human beings, right? So this increases production capacity and operating efficiency. In logistics, automated sorting and handling systems can significantly improve the speed and accuracy of order fulfillment, which also reduces error and increases throughput. Another business or industry is hospitality business. They have started to adopt new approaches to service experience that involve service automation, mobile applications, AI, and even the involvement of service robots. Service robots are used mainly for service sector, and there are 6 application areas mainly for service robots as seen in this picture here. Labor shortages in manufacturing led to increase of service robots. For example, now service robots are being used intra-logistics, means in factory, as well as for e-commerce setting. And there are more service robots used for professional cleaning, inspection and maintenance, hospitality, as well as agriculture. It is now estimated that every robot, okay, destroys roughly 2 manufacturing jobs. This implies that there's a total loss of 275,000 manufacturing jobs in the period of 1994 to 2014, which accounted for roughly 23%. But this was fully offset by additional jobs in the service sector, meaning even though jobs were taken away from people because of robots, but the jobs were actually replaced because additional jobs were created in the services sector. So robots have not increased the displacement risk for manufacturing workers. This is based on research done. And in contrast, more robots expose workers that means workers who are exposed to robots are even more likely to remain employed in the original workplace, though not necessarily performing the same tasks as earlier, meaning they could be doing some other tasks such as monitoring by using IoT or using AI in their job. Let's move on to the next technology, Internet of Things, or IoT. I'm sure all of us have heard of this. And what is IoT? Is basically the network of physical devices, vehicles, appliances, and other items that are embedded with sensors, softwares, and connectivity, allowing them to collect and exchange data as well. So IoT devices can monitor and optimize processes in real time. Uh, some very good examples would be, for example, in agriculture, IoT can optimize irrigation, fertilization by monitoring soil moisture, weather conditions, and crop growth. And this is increasingly being utilized now. IoT is increasingly used in agriculture now. Another sector is in healthcare. IoT can track patient health data, monitor vital signs remotely from a distance or from some distance, as well as automate medication dispensing. This diagram shows use of IoT by industries. So when we talk about industries, you can see we have one industries sector or usage here to track valuable equipment and tools remotely via sensors. And this applies to industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, and retail. Another use would be to monitor conditions in facilities, cities, and on work sites using drones. As you can see, the industries would be more on construction, manufacturing, and oil and gas. IoT's use is also to offer remote support to specialists and technicians in augmented facility. And that would apply in industries such as healthcare, manufacturing, telecoms, and other machining environments. Another use of IoT would be to boost supply chain and logistics efficiency with robots and drones. And this would apply mainly to logistics, retail, as well as transportation. Let's look at some examples, real life examples of IoT in action. Okay, this is an example. John Deere. John Deere manufactures agricultural equipment, right? And John Deere does this by using IoT sensors to measure machine performance, generate alerts, and identify potential equipment failures before they occur. Meaning, by just using sensors, IoT sensors, they are able to identify whether there's a possibility of the equipment failing, and they can predict or forecast that. And John Deere also monitors agriculture equipment remotely. They're able to diagnose issues and provide proactive maintenance. And all this would be a very good thing to improve productivity because you can reduce downtime. And you reduce downtime, you automatically improve productivity and increase revenue. Next, Internet of Things in action would be Siemens. Siemens is a manufacturer, right? We're talking about the manufacturing process. Siemens uses IoT to optimize its manufacturing process. They gather data from their production lines to predict potential issues in their production process. Siemens again improve their inventory management, reduce their waste, and reduce their downtime in their manufacturing process by using IoT. Next example would be Rolls-Royce. Here we are talking about not the car manufacturing, but more on the airplane and helicopters. So Rolls-Royce uses IoT to connect engines on their airplanes and helicopters to the cloud. By doing this, they are able to remotely monitor the performance of its engines. And that would lead to predicting and addressing maintenance issues. So you are able to reduce downtime as well as reduce cost. This again would lead to improved efficiency, reliability, and safety as well. With that, we move on to the next technology, big data analytics. Yeah, big data is something that is growing, and it's still growing bigger and bigger, right? So businesses are actually generating more data than ever before. By analyzing this data, the big data, what I mean, the companies can gain insights on customer behavior and characteristics, as well as improve supply chain management, optimize their production process, and in that way they're able to make more informed decisions. This eventually will lead to improved efficiency, cost savings, and increased revenue. Let's look at some examples. Now we are looking at one of the world's largest retailers example, where they are using big data analytics, right? And what Walmart does is they're able to gather a huge amount of data which are generated from the stores, customers, as well as suppliers. And using this big data analytics, they are able to make informed decisions about inventory, pricing, as well as marketing. And by making informed decisions, they are able to reduce their inventory costs and increase their overall efficiency. Another real life example would be Starbucks. Starbucks uses big data analytics from customers' point. So customers' data is collected to understand or to find out preferences, behaviors, as well as buying patterns. When these data are created, are analyzed, we can create what Starbucks can create personalized offers and promotions. And in that way, they are able to increase customer loyalty and improve their sales as well. Overall, Starbucks is able to improve efficiency and maintain its position as the leading coffee brand in the world. Next example is Netflix. So you and I would be very happy because Netflix is one of the pioneer in the streaming industry. Many people are using it, and Netflix is able to use big data analytics to track user behavior and suggest to customers the different films, shows, and other contents that are customized to that particular customers. So in other words, they tailor its content recommendations for each user individually. Netflix is able to increase engagement with the customer and increase customer retention. So customer will stay on with Netflix. And in this way, they are also able to increase their subscriber base and retain. Netflix is able to retain its position as a leading streaming platform still now. Next example of big data analytics is by GE, General Electric. And as we all know, General Electric is a very big company. They are into healthcare, aviation, as well as manufacturing. And GE collects big data from thousands of IoT devices. And these devices are used to upgrade their equipment or to monitor the performance of the equipment, identify performance issues, and predict any failures. In other words, this is useful for maintenance as well as breakdown maintenance as well as preventive maintenance. So we are able to reduce breakdown maintenance, which means that this will reduce downtime of the equipment and improve efficiency of operations. In other words, GE is able to increase productivity. Next technology is AI or artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is defined as an intangible capital assets because it's based on new software algorithms and as well as big data analytics. So firms may invest in AI to use it to increase their capacity and also to produce more valuable outputs. Now, there are many applications of AI currently, and it's actually getting bigger and bigger. The application part is getting, the range of applications is getting bigger and bigger. AI applications such as autonomous vehicles, voice recognition or speech text generating systems, predictive maintenance, or trained neural networks to optimize business energy consumption demonstrates AI's potential to increase firm productivity. And AI-based techniques will most likely increase a firm's innovative capabilities and enhance firm productivity through their impact on R&D, innovation, and the generation of new ideas. So AI can potentially, yes, this is something that we need to look into seriously when it comes to the human resource aspect. AI can potentially replace human labor for some tasks, yes. So in that manner, AI can cut per unit labor costs and improve productivity. Specifically, the ability of AI to assist or aid in decision-making process and in solving complex cognitive problems has led to concerns that AI can disrupt high-skill and high-wage occupation in contrast to previous waves of technology. because previous waves of technology were more to replace the lower skill and lower wage occupations. Let's look at the most commonly adopted AI use by function. And McKinsey Global Institute conducted an online survey in 2022. There were responses from 1,492 participants from different regions, industries, company sizes, functional specialties, and tenures as well. Out of these 1492 companies, 744 organizations had adopted AI in at least one function. And the most commonly adopted AI used by function is shown in this chart here. Service operations optimization is the highest based on this. Of course, we are also having others such as creation of new AI-based products, customer service analytics, customer segmentation, and of course, enhancement of products. Now let's look at the impact of AI on cost and revenue. So AI cost decreases are most often reported in supply chain. So over here we have a chart that shows AI cost decrease on the left side and AI revenue increase on the right. So from this, we can see that AI cost decreases are most often reported in supply chain management. And the highest AI related revenue increases has been observed in product development and marketing and sales. So this shows that AI has quite a big impact in terms of reducing costs as well as increasing revenues. Let's talk about the technical talent. It has been reported that some technical talent shortage is there in this current era. Organizations are now more and more are mostly hiring more software engineers, data engineers, and AI data scientists. So it has been reported that AI data scientist shortage is the highest. And this is not going to end here because AI data scientists are used not just for AI because they're able to link big data analytics with AI. And so AI data scientists become very, very important in this current AI era. uh, on the in the case of policies, because AI has there has been some issues when it comes to usage of artificial intelligence. So even though uh, even though there are issues which need to be corrected, but overall we can see that AI reduces cost and increases revenue. Okay, so policies that are drafted, of course we have some policies already drafted, some policies in progress. Policies should encourage firms to use AI on a broader scale by tackling barriers related to AI. For example, lack of specialized skills, insufficient IT infrastructure, and privacy regulation on data usage. So if AI enables machines to learn such that humans are faced with continual change in the skills required to be employed, then we may need to rethink the structure of education. Again, because humans are faced with continual change in the skills required to be employable. So there's a need to rethink the structure of education. So education policy will need to adapt to AI both in terms of skills taught and the structure of delivery. So it might suggest a need to teach skills related to telling an AI what to predict, meaning the future workforce should be able to tell the AI what needs to be predicted. So they should have the skill to be able to tell the AI what to be done. And it might suggest a model of continual learning through adulthood. Why? Because, as I mentioned earlier, because we are now being faced, or humans are faced with continual change in the skills required to be employed. So there's a need to have an education policy in place where there's a continual learning throughout adulthood. Next is about generative AI. Generative AI is actually a subset of AI. Okay, and this involves the use of algorithms to create new contents or generate output that mimics human creativity. How does generative AI work? It starts with a prompt that could be in the form of a text, an image, a video, a design, a musical note, or any input that the AI system can process. Now, various AI algorithms then return new content in response to the prompt. The content can include essays, solutions to problems, or realistic fakes created from pictures or audio of a person, meaning that you can make realistic pictures from another picture of a person or a thing and make it seem like very real. So early versions of generative AI required submitting data via the API, and that was actually a complicated process. So developers now, they at that time, developers had to familiarize themselves with special tools and write applications by using languages such as Python. But the newer generation, or the newer generative AI, has developed better user experiences, which let you describe a request in plain language. That means it's like how a human would talk to another human. After an initial response, right? Let's say you write something to the AI and request for something, right? And you get an initial response. You can customize the results. You can feedback. You can improvise what you requested. You can customize the results with feedback about the style, the tone, and other elements that you want the generated content to reflect. And that is very well taken care in the current version of generative AI. So McKinsey studies said that generative AI could add about 7.3 trillion in value to the world economy each year, and believes that half of today's work activities could be automated between 2030 and 2060. So imagine the world is actually set to change at a pace never seen before. And some of the generative AI interfaces, which some of us are quite familiar with, ChatGPT, DALL-E, and Bard. And we actually have a very short video clip to play today. Maybe we can watch that now first.
Meet John, a talented programmer who is looking to start a company that used his personally developed mobile application to connect restaurants and customers for booking and reservations. Even though the app was ready, John had difficulty getting together a team for his startup, needing separate people for sales, marketing, programming, content creation, and customer support. Hiring reliable manpower while being strict with his budget was getting difficult. He reached out to his friend Ryan, who said John could start his company without hiring any new people, thanks to just a single AI-based tool. John couldn't believe it, which led Ryan to introduce ChatGPT, the revolutionary AI chatbot being developed by OpenAI. It is a state-of-the-art natural language processing, or NLP model, that uses a neural network architecture to provide responses. This means that the ChatGPT bot can answer questions without being explicitly told what the answer is using its own intellect, unlike previous AI chatbots. So, how does ChatGPT help John in filling out his team? Regarding sales, ChatGPT can provide full-fledged sales pitches based on the correct prompts. It can provide tips on how to pitch your product to businesses, removing the need for sales training. Completely customized to your requirements and your prompts. If you don't like some things about the response, you can ask for certain changes, and the chatbot will make sure they are done. When it comes to marketing, ChatGPT can provide efficient marketing strategies, which can help new entrepreneurs learn how to market their products to prospective clients. It can provide trending keywords that marketers can use for SEO purposes, while providing ad copies for your website and blog. Speaking of websites, since John can do a lot of the heavy lifting and programming, ChatGPT can help proofread the code and help out when looking for bugs to fix. Apart from basic bug fixing, it can also provide sample code structures for different programming languages, allowing John to focus more on improving core functionality and workflow rather than fixing basic code errors. Websites and blogs content is very helpful when gathering potential customer leads. The revolutionary bot can provide full-length blog posts with near-perfect fast accuracy in seconds, allowing further customization, like choosing the length of the subject matter to the complexity of language. For John's customer support, the bot can draft complete customer service emails based on the situation, saving time and resources. The tone of the message can be changed to reflect the nature of the message, creating an efficient alternative for call center professionals. John was left speechless seeing this level of versatility from ChatGPT and wanted to implement it right away.
Okay, so I hope that gave you an introduction to the application of ChatGPT in real life, and you would have seen the extent of work that ChatGPT can do, or how much of cost savings it would bring into a company. There was a study conducted by Peng and others, and they studied the productivity effects of AI tools on software development. They conducted a controlled trial of GitHub Copilot, which is an AI pair programmer powered by OpenAI's generative AI. And GitHub Copilot would actually suggest code and entire functions in real-time based context. 95 professional programmers participated and were instructed to write an HTTP server in JavaScript. The treated group had access to GitHub Copilot. They watched a brief video explaining how to use it. And the control group did not have access to GitHub Copilot, but just used internet search and so on. The finding was that Copilot had significantly impact on productivity. And the treated group that has access to GitHub Copilot was able to complete the task faster than the control group. Another example is using AI to study the adoption of AI in conversational assistance among 5,179 customer support agents. The AI system monitors customer chats and provides agents real-life suggestions for how to respond. So it was found that AI assistants increased worker productivity by 13.8% increase in the number of chats that an agent is able to successfully resolve per hour. And therefore, AI working alongside with humans can have a significant positive impact on productivity and retention of individual workers. This chart is to illustrate about generative AI relating to displaced workers and opportunities created. Now, it shows from the time of 1950s to 2020, right? Technological change displaced workers and created new employment opportunities at roughly the same rate for the first half of the post-war period. Okay, that was before 1960s or 1970s, right? But it has displaced workers at a faster pace than it has created new opportunities since 1980s. That's according to Ashmoglu and Restrepo in 2019. So what we can say is that the combination of significant labor cost savings, new job creation, and a productivity boost for non-displaced workers raises the possibility of a labor productivity boom like those that followed the emergences of earlier general purpose technologies like electric motor and personal computer. So global labor productivity boost to countries implies that widespread AI adoption could eventually drive a 7% or almost 7 trillion increase in annual GDP over a 10-year period. The actual size of AI's impact will ultimately depend on its capability and adoption timeline. These are some of the generative AI regulations because, as I mentioned, this is one issue that's going on right now and critical need to be thought of. There's some countries which have already proposed some AI regulations. Now, some challenges are who should regulate, what to regulate, and how to regulate. These basic questions have yet to be answered. Here, I just run through with you what are some of the best practices to navigate the landscape of emerging technologies. First, you need to understand your business needs. Second is to evaluate the feasibility and risk of emerging technologies by using tools such as SWOT analysis, and you might need to determine whether you need to invest more or you need more expertise, right? And to implement, while implementing new technologies, there's a requirement, or it is good to design a roadmap as well as design a governance model. When you design a roadmap, you plan the scope, the timeline, the milestones, and so on. By designing a governance model, you set policies, roles, and responsibilities. That is important when you implement new technologies. It is also good and is one of the best practices to adopt agile approach for new technologies which are constantly evolving. And of course, when you implement new technology, right, it is good to monitor and optimize the performance and impact of the new technology. You can use tools to collect data, visualize your data, dashboards, reports, and so on. And of course, this can then be used to take corrective, preventive actions and make improvements further. Okay, that is all I have for now. Thank you for listening. Dr. Jose, over to you now.
I think it's good to know all those data and information, and I have also seen how these technologies are affecting different industries. So you mentioned even specific cases of companies like Starbucks, Siemens, and so forth, how they adapt to these technologies and of course ultimately improve their productivity. So let me ask first a question. By the way, our viewers are encouraged to send their questions. So we are live in this session. So we'll ask your question to Dr. Kanagi shortly. But let me start my first question, Dr. Kanagi. Of course, we have seen those companies adapting to these technologies. But my first question is, where should an organization start in adopting new technologies? Or should there be any triggering factor that this organization will be forced to adapt the new technology? So where should they start?
I think to start to adopt a new technology, right, the first step would be to assess the digital readiness. Is the firm ready to step into this adoption of new technology? So the first step is to assess the digital readiness before embarking on any form of transformation. So by knowing, okay, you need to know the skill level readiness. If you're aware of your skill level readiness, that will lead to then, let's say if you are not that ready, right, you will need to upgrade the skill levels, okay, by putting in training programs to address the skill gap. And of course, as you're doing the digital skill assessment, you would know where your weakness is to go and come up with improvements on the weakness areas before you go on a big scale and embark on a new technology. Because if you do not do the right planning, that might lead to more problems or failures in adopting in the first place.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you very much. I understand. I know, and of course, also for the APO, we also have this kind of readiness assessment tool
Yes.
to assess the level of readiness and in terms of adoption of new technologies, especially for SMEs. So I understand explanation. So let me start a question here. We have a question from Mr. Kamit Umar in our chat box. So how do you see new technologies impacting the future of education? What education system or model you can imagine, and consequently productivity in the workplace? So what is your view or answer to this question relating to education, ma'am?
I think that is a very good question, Amit Kumar. Thank you for the question. First of all, when we talk about new technologies impacting the future of education, it's not just about we conducting the class over Zoom or what. It is about whether we are creating the workforce that is ready for the new technology. So the whole policy of the education system should be to incorporate these skills. No, it could be any course that the student is doing, but there should be an element of skill readiness for the new technology. And because once they get into the workforce, there's a huge competition there, right? You don't need to be just academically fit to become good in managing new technologies. You need to be able to have the skill to tell the AI or tell or use IoT to control the equipments or robots that are there. And of course, if you have the workforce that is ready to start with this adoption of AI and so on, right, new technology, then productivity at the workplace will be improving, because then you don't have this transition period where you will need to train this workforce all over again or start from fresh. Yeah, that is what I think is important. That's all. Thank you, Dr. Josie. Over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. I remember that there was a kind of a saying that what I study now maybe not the demand of the future in terms of job, but I hope it's not true to all different field of education.
Yes.
Otherwise, the meaning of education now maybe have less meaning in terms of job search in the future. And also, I'm not sure if this relates to Mr. Kumar's question. In fact, there is also a kind of uh, a site that you can type in which particular sector or education or field, for example, like is it politics, is it business or dentistry or law, something like that, that will somehow be less relevant or in terms of employability in the future. And also, of course, this relates to education because now we see students taking up other than those STEM, like the science, technology, like that. They also there are also students study law or dentistry or politics, something like that. So I hope that, yeah, not all. I hope that it will not be completely eradicate the value of education across different sectors. Mom, let me proceed with another question here from Miss Eva Benita Tuzon. The question is how to mainstream these new technologies in a system where there is high corruption. Okay, so I think she's trying to relate these new technologies with corruption. Maybe I don't know, it's a kind of governance issue or a kind of
Yes.
social corruption. But any view on this question, ma'am?
Yeah, is actually something that I mean is a very practical question. In some countries, you can see the need to ask this question. Yeah, and for me, corruption would actually damage a lot of things for the country, right? And how do you mainstream these new technologies in a system where corruption is high? Basically, it's about governance, right? So there should be some policies in place or some regulations in place. If there are no regulations drafted or implemented, then everyone has a freestyle of doing things, because as you clearly mentioned, when there's high corruption, anyone can do it in any manner that they want. So that is why it is very important to look into the legal matters, meaning regulations, who should monitor, how should it be monitored, and whoever's using the new technology, uh, in what way are they answerable to the government of the day, who is supposed to be responsible to ensure that regulations are in place. I think that would be my point on this matter.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think if I look at it differently also, my answer to the question could be that maybe new technologies can also help us curb corruption. So
I
there
hope
should be
so. I hope so.
the technology, if applied in a governance context. So I hope that some will be useful enough to curb corruption or lessen corruption or to catch corruption.
Yeah, you
Okay,
mean
thank you very
to
much.
monitor? Maybe we can monitor the level
Yes.
of corruption in an easier way because we have the technology to do it faster and better, maybe.
Yeah, and I think they already happen. Maybe not directly addressing corruption, but they really happen. Or now, I mean, they are really being applied. Ma'am, I think let me just move on to other question. This is a follow-up question by Mr. Amit Kumar. Well, thank you first for the answer earlier. And the second question is that how can businesses handle resistance from employees who may be hesitant to adopt new technologies? So, yeah, I think in your presentation we have seen how fast the evolution of these technologies, and of course, technologies are still being used by people or by employees. But in the beginning, we imagine that there is a resistance. So how do we address that kind of attitude of employees in that organization?
Okay, that's actually something that many people, some challenge, it's a challenge that many employers would be facing as well. And I know when somebody has been doing a particular job the way for many years, and then you impose something new to them, ask them to learn something new, there might be some resistance. But then there's a need to tell them, make it a point to tell them or educate them that there's no way, this is not an option anymore. Okay, and if they are a bit reluctant because they're afraid that their job might be taken away from them, that means they're displaced. There is a need to tell them that actually the machine will not displace them, right? The machine will not displace the employee. It is the employee himself or herself who needs to ensure that the job is retained by them. And how would they retain the job? Basically, by making sure that they are the ones who are giving instruction to the machines. So, meaning there's a need to learn the technology to instruct the AI or the IoT, use IoT to instruct the robots to do the job. Okay, so if on top of all this way of trying to explain the situation, if they're still not able to cope with it, or they still just want to maintain the way they have been doing it, then it's just too bad. They have to find, they should be given another job, maybe in the services sector, where they can go on and learn another new technology. But again, as you say, if they are really resistant, we really can't help them. But in terms of education, right, we can set up lifelong learning systems. So give them an option to continue to learn new technologies and use them in any job. Even if it's not the same company, they can move on to another company and using the knowledge that they've studied using the current the new education policy. Also, one more thing is give them some incentives. If they come up, if they learn up this technology, you give them incentive, give them a little bit of carrot, show them that if you're learning new things, okay, I give you some form of reward. uh, that's my view on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am, and thank you for also relating your answer to job losses or because of course we when in recent years, for example, when we see all these AI or IoT under Industry 4.0, I mean all these technologies, and we always see headline news that a lot of job losses or are expected to happen, but yeah, so I think you gave an example on how to make sure that the employee will still be relevant and not necessarily be losing job. But yeah, I think we really need to go into deeper and maybe do some studies, especially at the firm level, if any new technology introduced or new technology indeed result into resulted into loss of replacement of people in the production or in the company. Okay, ma'am, I just want to move on to question here. I think Miss Tucson, I think she made a comment to our previous answer to her question. So I would like to move on to this question from Asai Chambi. So many countries in Asia are a bit slower in adopting new technologies. How could the situation be solved, particularly on policy front? I think towards the end of your slides, you mentioned some policies, but maybe you could elaborate more on that based on this question.
Okay. Actually, the government has a role to stimulate digital transformation. And in many Asian countries, it is about SMEs. Okay, SMEs, small and medium enterprises, are the largest businesses in many of the Asian countries. And SMEs should be able to adopt new technologies. But what's happening now is they are a little bit slow in adopting this technology in Asia, as you rightfully mentioned. And how can we help them? In the policy wise, government has a role to stimulate that digital transformation. What the government can do is to provide some form of incentives to SMEs that embark on digital transformation. So if they are going into this e-commerce, right, digital transformation, then the government agencies can provide some help to the SMEs to progress. For example, in Malaysia, we do provide some training as well as some funding to some SMEs who really need some assistance in this aspect. But of course, this is something that needs to be considered by the particular country, and there's a because that involves budget as well. But then in the long run, if you can upgrade your SMEs to adopt new technologies, right, and they are able to improve their productivity, at the end of the day, it contributes to the GDP of the country. Yeah, so it will be very useful then. That's all from me.
Thank you, ma'am. It's a very good answer because I hope that answers to Mr. Asai's question. And I have a follow-up question to that. I think it's very good point to start with. So we all know that these new technologies, they don't come very cheap for SMEs, as an example you cited. So my question now is, how can we address the high cost of this technology to transform a small organization or SME? So I know you gave example in Malaysia, but is there any other answer to other than giving financial support? So how do we address the high cost of
Yeah.
adopting this new technology?
If I were running an SME, right, the first thing I would want to do is to start an online store. And starting an online store is actually a big step towards digitalization. Okay, but it must be optimized to meet the customer and business needs. So the adoption, right? Of course, there are three challenges. There are some challenges to it. SMEs have poor cash flow to sustain the digitalization. SMEs might lack skills. Financing might be an issue, right? So SMEs should be able to perform cost benefit analysis of the new technologies. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, right, assess their readiness, right, and then perform the cost benefit analysis of the new technologies. Uh, if let's say the SME goes into e-commerce, right, there are some special features for SMEs. For example, Amazon, PayPal, and social media, including Facebook, they offer special features for SMEs. And this can be utilized in the initial phase of getting into this technology transformation, right? The first thing that they can do is get into e-commerce and utilize these special features to reduce the cost. Now, once you have grown your market share through the use of new technology, then maybe the level of what do you call technological change can be the cost of technological change can be as absorbed by the SME themselves if they were taking the first step and making use of the special privileges for SMEs first. And I think that would work in a way. I've seen many small companies making use of privileges by big companies such as Amazon or any online based platforms, and they have managed to come out and cover the cost of future investments in new technology. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Mom. I think the explanation, the way I understood it, looks like there's no other way for an SME or small organization to do but to adapt to these new technologies, or especially including those emerging technologies, to stay in business and to stay competitive in the industry. So, Mom, relating to this conversation, I have a follow-up question to that. So, with the myriad of these ongoing technology advances, so we have seen a lot, and I think there will be more coming up. So, what are the implications of doing nothing at all? So, okay, new technologies are coming out. Okay, all those IoT or AI, data analytics, coming up, or ChatGPT. I think you have shown us a new way of valuing this ChatGPT. But what is the implication if I just, as an entrepreneur or as running an organization, for example, I do nothing?
Okay. Actually, the classic business models have been disappearing, and they are substituted by business models which are flexible, having real time responses to consumers' habits, and are knowledge based. So, the firms that are able to keep afloat in a rapidly changing AI era, right? People and firms which keep upgrading the skill levels, right? Employee skill levels need to be upgraded in order to be equipped with the AI skills, IoT skills. And actually, there's no option but to move along. It's just like how at one time, right, we moved on from typewriter to computers, right? And from computers, we are now into what? Smartphones. So we have moved on and we have adopted, the whole world has adopted that. So that is how this new technology is going to drive the whole world, and there is no option of doing nothing at all. If you do nothing, is equivalent to heading towards failure in the business.
Oh, I see. Thank you, Mom. You're really an advocate of these new technologies, and yeah, I think from your explanation, looks like there's no other way but to do something than doing nothing at all. So, Mom, I think we are almost time of this speed talk, but I still want. I hope I can still ask this question. I mean, I think it's good to leave a message to our viewers, still relating to what we just discussed about doing nothing at all. So my
Mhm.
last question for this bit of you is that, will the future of productivity be determined more by the adoption of advanced technologies or by other factors? So what is your take on this question, Ma'am?
Actually, technology, right? Technology is not something that is effective immediately after implementation. So it can be only beneficial if a company, if the particular company is highly, or the technology that's implemented by the company is highly integrated into its business operations. So the rapid and right adoption of advanced technology will be able to enhance innovation and operational efficiency. So this is how adoption of advanced technology can improve productivity. Of course, let's say now we are talking about the adoption of advanced technologies, right? Uh, Other factors at the moment do not seem to be around, but if of course in another few years or in a decade or less, if there's some disruptive factor, disruptive factor which will disrupt the whole, you know, technological flow, right? Then that particular factor, okay, has a possibility of having a bigger impact on productivity, which of course will be another scenario. Again, as we say, change is the only constant that remains here, right? So there will be another change coming up, and in that change, maybe it's something that is bigger than what we are doing now, adopting of advanced technologies. We say advanced, but the advanced might be even more advanced in the future. So the other factors uh, can be coming, but we are yet to see that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, thank you very much, ma'am. So I think my take on that is that, yeah, I think technologies, or especially those emerging or including those current technologies, really play a very important role in driving productivity at the firm level. And of course, when firms are productive, doing good in their business, this have implications to the national economy and progress of the country. So I think it's a very good message to end this conversation with you, especially in linking new technologies to productivity improvement, be at the firm or SME level. Well, you have good examples of those big companies, but we also see the same impact or effect of productivity performance at the SME level and to any organization, be it a public sector or in a private sector. So, Dr. Kanagi, thank you very much, ma'am, for answering the questions. And thank you also for our viewers for those questions. So, we have come to the closing part of this session. So, Dr. Kanagi's presentation showed that technological change drives long term economic growth, productivity, and improvement in living standards. According to an OECD report, actually, if to quote the report, the emergence and diffusions of new ideas, products, and production techniques throughout the economy entails a process of this creative destruction. So new technologies destroy jobs in some industries, especially among the low skilled, while creating new types of jobs in different industries and require different skills. And if I were to recall Dr. Kanagi's explanation, it doesn't have to kill jobs, but we just have to uh, introduce new skills or the skills required for that technology to be adopted. So we need to introduce or train our staff. I think that's one of her answers to the question earlier relating to this message. So the challenge for us now from the policy advisory perspective is how to ensure that technology policy is an integral part of the broader structural reform agenda of governments to enable different industries to adopt new technologies and achieve growth through overall productivity improvement enabled by the advances in new technologies. So we thank Dr. Kanagi for sharing her insights on the topic of productivity improvement through new technologies. And I think she gave a lot of examples, including the sectors, industries where these technologies are really taking place and creating big impact in terms of productivity performance. So with that, I would like to invite Dr. Kanagi for her final message, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Jesse. I would, as a final conclusion, I would like to remind, or I would like to say that new technology such as AI is for real. It's there, it's real. This is no longer an option, and we need to adopt the new technology and move on to improve our productivity at the individual level as well as firm level. And future jobs are driven by this technology. So remember, at the end of the day, an AI will not replace your job. Another human who has AI skills will replace your job if you do not adopt the technology. So the new technologies are for real. It's no longer an option. That's my final conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kanagi. And we also thank our viewers and hope that this P-Talk will continue to efforts to understand better the implications of adopting new technologies to enhance productivity performance, especially at the firm or organizational level. We also encourage looking into the role of public policies in facilitating the adoption of digital technologies to improve overall national economic growth performance through productivity. And I think Dr. Kanagi highlighted the importance of these policies to facilitate the adoption and of the these technologies to be adopted at the country level by firms or organizations. So thank you all to our viewers for joining us today. Please also tune in to our upcoming P Talks to learn about different topics that affect the productivity of individuals, organizations, and economies as a whole. So again, Dr. Kanagi, thank you very much for sharing your knowledge to us in this P Talk. And to our viewers, everyone, and including Dr. Kanagi, please stay safe and goodbye for now.
Thank you and bye.
Thank you very much, ma'am.